Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining our next version of the Modicon user group. And today we're going to talk about EcoStruxure Process Expert for AVEVA. Joining us today, we have Jerry Bartolome. He'll do the brunt of the presentation today. He's our expert for Process Expert. And then we have Brian Curtis. He's also going to join, and he has been coming up to speed on the AVEVA and the asset link and all that stuff. So we have some really good presenters on tap here today. Let me go ahead and start recording. There we go. Okay, so today the agenda, we have a couple of guest speakers on before we get to our keynote presentation. One is what's new in Control Expert 16. 16 was released recently, and so we're going to give you a very quick 20,000-foot flyby of what is new. We also have a presentation around our customer training, a little training update by Tim Heather, and he's going to come on board and let you know what's new there with customer training, and then obviously Process Expert. And in my opinion, by the way, Process Expert, while it's had a couple of different names, it was hybrid DCS for a little bit. It was Process Expert in the beginning, Process DCS, then back to Process Expert. It was actually a different name very early on. We started working on this back when I was an SAE, actually. It's got to be probably 22 years ago. I remember presenting a product, and I forget the name of it. Probably Jerry might know it. It's actually an underutilized tool that we have in our tool bag, and we probably don't talk about it enough, where we're able to, it builds on the libraries that we spoke about last week, but it becomes real object-oriented programming for the PLC systems, and great for customers who are repeating things over and over again, the same processes, whether it's a pump and a graphic that goes along with that pump. So really great stuff. You guys need to know about it. We would like to push it, so please pay attention to this one. Modicon user group, right? This is a Schneider Electric distributor version. Later on today, we'll have the customer version, so I apologize if you are a customer. We would ask you please to disconnect right now. Both of these webinars, normally I have the one webinar is on Teams and the second one is on WebEx. Today, both of them are on Teams, and if I have my druthers, we will do that. We'll always do that. Teams is a great platform, and I'm hoping the experience is good for you. So if you did not receive this invite directly, meaning somebody forwarded you this invite, I will put a link in the chat. And please register, because I have a list of people that get this thing all the time. So if you are new here because somebody passed you this invite, please register, and this way you will get the invite until you tell me not to invite you any longer and take you off the list. True to the Modicon user group, we're gonna these are the topics that we kind of focus on. Today is really around the PLCs and SCADA systems. That's going to be obvious as you go through it. We like to do the shameless plug. We have a playlist that's out there. The list is up top. I will also put that in the chat if you haven't bookmarked it. We have a couple of new videos that we threw up there in the last couple of months. You can take a look at them, and we're continuously adding. There's a few that are in the process to be added, and so they will continuously be added throughout the year. Great for you. And great for your customers. And so when you run across an issue, you should check this Modicon user group, and there could potentially be that solution for your customer right there. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I post nothing but automation stuff. Most of it has been the Modicon user group, and the videos, so the recordings for this, which will be available in about 2 or 3 weeks, will get posted to the LinkedIn. That is not permanent, by the way. I mean, yeah, it's going to be posted on there, but we're trying to get a website put together where all these links will be in one spot. So to be determined. The last one that we had was not sustainable. It was in a bad place. It was behind a firewall. I really want to get everything onto YouTube, quite frankly. So I'm working with the marketing team to do that. But for now, everything is on LinkedIn. Please connect with me. Notes for today's webinar. This webinar is being recorded. Please mute your device. I think everyone came in. They come in muted. If you want to know more about anything that you see today, please contact me, and I'll put you in touch with the experts. There's also a survey link at the end. That survey link allows us to get better, quite frankly. It allows you to, if you have a topic that you would like to see us present, please put it in there. We read every single one of those, and so it's really important, and that we get feedback from you. So with that said, thank you, and I'm going to pass it off to my first presenter, which is David England. David?
Hi, good morning, Lou. Thank you. I'm going to be going over with everyone today what is new in Control Expert version 16. There are new things in the software, and there's also some new hardware that we have support for. So I will be going over both of those pieces. So when we look at what's new in Control Expert version 16, the first thing that you'll see is that we have new operating system support. We now officially support Windows 11 and Windows Server 2022, starting in version 16. We have also done some improvements to the software installer for a more user-friendly experience. We now allow users to select the components they wish to install and have generally simplified the workflow. We have also updated the software icons that get placed on your computer when installing Control Expert. Previously, you would get one icon for Control Expert and another very similar icon for Control Expert Classic, and it was very confusing which software you were using. Now we have clearly differentiated between Control Expert Classic and Topology Manager through both the application name and the icons that are used. Another thing you would have seen in recent versions of Control Expert is that when you create a project, you will be asked to enter a password. You previously had to press a cancel button, and this was not very intuitive. So we have added a checkbox that you can check to cancel putting in a password rather than having to find that cancel button. We also now have the ability to update applications with newer DTM versions. So if you have a newer DTM installed on your computer, then you have in a project, it gives you a checkbox option to pick those DTMs and upgrade those to move them forward in your project. We've also added a feature in the DTM audit tool that if your project has DTMs where backwards compatibility is not supported, you now have the possibility to hide that message by checking a box so that you don't have to see that in the tool. For users of the Modicon switches, we have now installed with Control Expert the EDS files for getting diagnostics from the Modicon switches. And in addition, the dual ring switch configuration files are now saved in the extras folder for Control Expert, so you don't have to go out to the website and find those. For any customer who's using Ethernet IP protocol on a routed network, we are now able to talk to devices over Ethernet IP through a router directly from the M580. This was a feature that was added in 15.3 for the NOC cards. We're now just extending the support to the M580 controller itself. For anyone using the Control Expert API, also called the Unity Developer Edition, you used to have to go out to the website to find documentation for this. The documentation for the software is now included in the extras of Control Expert. So now we get to one of the nicest features, I think, in version 16, and this is improved online changes capabilities. When you are online with a controller and you make a program change and hit the build changes button, you will see right around a 60% optimization for how long it takes for those changes to be built. So a change that previously would take about 10 seconds will now take around 4 seconds. So the customers will have a much improved experience when doing online edits of code in their Control Expert projects. Another big thing that's changed with Control Expert version 16 is that we have made enhancements to the security editor tool. This tool has been with the software for a long time, but it has a lot more options now. And The big thing that got changed with this in version 16 is that the menus have gotten a little bit of a facelift. And in addition to that, we now have the ability to store security keys in the tool. And we use that security key storage with some of the other new features that we have. So one of those other new features is the ability to do a centralized user management for the Control Expert software. What this means is that you can create usernames and passwords in the security editor tool, and you can link your Control Expert computers together. So you only have to do the configuration in a single security editor tool. But in addition to just using security editor, you can also connect to LDAP server, which is that's the protocol used by Microsoft Active Directory, so that people can log into Control Expert with Windows usernames and passwords. So this is a cybersecurity enhancement, but it's also can be a usability enhancement for some customers because it allows us to do role-based access control based on a user group. So you might have a group of users that are engineers and you want them to have full access to make any program change they want to a PLC. But you might also have a maintenance group where you only want them to have read-only access so that they can troubleshoot but not make program changes. So the role-based control helps with a little bit more than just cybersecurity. We've also added a feature called Secure Engineering Link with the M580. Secure Engineering Link requires Control Expert version 16 and firmware 4.20 on the M580. What this feature does is it allows us to connect from Control Expert to the M580 with an encrypted connection using the HTTPS protocol and TLS encryption. This requires you to accept the security key of the controller in the security editor software. Now, this feature, to be clear, is only for connecting directly to the M580's IP address. It's not for connecting to an NOC card. We've also added a similar feature with the M340. So if you have an M340 with version 3.6 firmware and Control Expert version 16, you are able to use the protected engineering link to have an encrypted connection to the front Ethernet port on an M340. This is slightly different than the M580 because it is not using HTTPS and it's not doing a secure key exchange. It's simply encrypting it via the application password. In July, we are scheduled to have a hotfix added to Control Expert 16 that will give us TÜV certification for the safety PLCs. This means you'll now be able to have a safety certified system with version 16 of Control Expert. Right now, you have to be on version 15.1, so this will give us a newer version compatible with safety. We have also done a hardware update on the BME NOR 2200. This is the secure DMP3 and IEC 6870 card for the M580. What's new with this card is that in addition to having the serial port, which was a top port here, we now have 2 Ethernet ports on it. And the support for this new version of the hardware will be added through a hotfix. You'll see the hotfix out for 15.3 on the website. We're looking into when that will be available for version 16. And last and most excitingly here, we've added a card called the Edge Compute Node module for the M580. Support for this module starts in version 16. So what the Edge Compute module does is it allows us to put a Linux computer right on the backplane of the M580. The way this works from a technology standpoint is the customer can have whatever application they want that runs on Linux, and they can package it in something called a Docker container. That is an application that has been virtualized to include the application and any of its dependencies. So they can package up their application in a Docker container, load that to this module through a web page that we have to manage those Docker containers. And then they can use an OPC UA server that's built into this module to read data from the M580 into their custom application. So that should open up a lot of opportunities for us in the future for customers to do, custom and interesting things on their M580s, saving space in the rack and not having to install a separate computer. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass it back to Lou.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Actually, we're going to go to Tim. Tim, you want to go ahead and share?
I am going to share, and here we go. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can see you, yes. No presentation yet.
No presentation. All right, stand by. Let me share my presentation. Did that work?
Yep, got it.
All right, let me just move this out of my window. All right. Good day, everyone. I am Tim Heather from the Customer Training Department. I'm here to briefly discuss how training can add value to your business. Not only does training have a direct impact on the organization's productivity, but performance as well. As workers get trained and develop new skills, their confidence builds as they utilize those new skills to perform their job. Through training, folks, the participant becomes increasingly able to reproduce the learned behavior with fewer errors, greater speed, and under demanding conditions. And again, that's what we all do. We all are trained. So let's talk about the U.S. Services Customer Training offers. And folks, for the Canadian folks, Canada's training department has some of the similar offers. Please make sure you reach out to your country's group. The automation training offers allows your customers to either attend in-person classes at their location, or we can now do virtual classes utilizing Microsoft Teams, and we have a venue called SkyTap where they get in and they get assigned a virtual machine. Starting with our flagship automation classes, folks, Control Expert Level 1 and 2. Level 1 is offered on-site or virtually. Level 2 is only offered on-site in the U.S. at this time. Our on-site programs can accommodate up to 10 people for 3 days. Virtually, we accommodate 6 people for 3 days. Now, I do have a virtual level 1 schedule that is a monthly virtual level 1 class that's on a monthly schedule. If you need that, please let me know. Our on-site trainings for Control Expert Level 1 and 2. We ship out M340s, M580s, or a combination of the two, computers loaded with the current Control Expert software, participant materials, and the instructor. They all arrive at the customer site to take 3 days of training. Folks, I have several distributors out there that purchase the class and host it for their customers at the branch. Not only does this build a relationship, but it also allows the distributor to possibly discover further sales opportunities that they can talk about while they're there. Again, level 2 is on-site or distributor hosted only at this time in the US. So again, if you do not have enough people, talk to the distributor and see if they can help us out. I have maintaining a Modicon M340 or M580 that can be a 1-day adder to the program to make the 3 days a 4-day program. And again, this is something we can take care of. I have 4 brand new automation classes that we've added in 2024 that right now are virtual only. We have EcoStruxure Automation Expert Level 1. All right, I do have this scheduled once per quarter this year. Operator Terminal Expert Level 1. That's also brand new, and I have it on a quarterly schedule. Machine Expert Level 1 is also out there this year, and it is on a quarterly schedule. And our EcoStruxure Machine SCADA Expert Level 1 right now is only on demand. Now, folks, if a customer has 3 participants minimum, I will schedule a virtual class to accommodate their needs. If the customer would like to have some virtual time in the virtual space, basically the sandbox to play, we can offer an additional day where they can get into SkyTap and they can get into their virtual machine to play around with the program, maybe test an application. We can accommodate them in a didactic environment, basically, okay? So as we move on to human machine interface, our HMI training, we have Visio Quick Start and Visio Designer Programming. The Quick Start is a 1-day adder, usually sold as an additional day to Control Expert Level 1. The VGO Designer 3-Day is a standalone programming course. Again, this is virtual or on-site. If it's virtual, we can offer the sandbox for an additional time. And again, if it's on-site, we ship out Magellus HMIs and computers loaded with the software. We have 3 main instructors with 1 contract instructor that takes care of our automation business. At this point right now, we're scheduling about 4 to 8 weeks out. Usually the second half of the year, it gets extremely busy and we run 6 to 12 weeks out on the schedule because now, folks, we're in Q2. When we get into Q3, people are going to start realizing if they haven't got their training budget spent, now we're scrambling to spend the training budget. If a customer does not have enough participants for an on-site class, work with a local distributor to see if they'll host and send out a blast to their customer base. I have one distributor, folks, that they put on level 1, level 2 at the branch consistently year after year. And I have other customers who do not want to go into a virtual class. They will actually travel out of state to this distributor to attend their in-person class. I am here as a resource for U.S. customer training. If you need a quote, if you need to schedule, if you need to convert a PO, I am here to assist you the best we can. All right. Folks, if you look at our contact information, you can get a hold of us at our customer training email. Again, if you hit the QR code, you're going to get to our catalog. If you need anything, any personal service for customer training, please let me know. I will take care of you. And Alex Ramos is our new customer training manager. He should be putting a PDF up in the chat box that has all this information for you. That's my spiel. Let me know if you need anything.
Awesome, Tim. Thank you very much. And right on schedule. I like it. Hey, by the way, that QR code does work. That's awesome. All right, Jerry. So just a reminder, the reason why we do these things is really to touch you, right? Our sellers, is to touch our customers. When we started this Modicon user group back a number of years ago, there was always a need. We weren't touching all of our customers with our latest architecture and letting them know our technology that we have out there, and so this is helping a lot. We average somewhere between 100 and 150 customers every time we have one of these events, and that's really important. And so, the reason why I asked you guys to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's also another way for us to connect and stay closer, passing that information along so that you guys can be more informed and be thought leaders that are out there. With that said, we are also doing a tour, I call it a road show, touching customers live, and we're partnering with distributors around the U.S. in hosting events. And I'd like to give a big shout out to Gray Bar Orlando yesterday, which held a fantastic event. 27 customers, which is right at the top end of our goal. We were looking between 20 and 30 customers. Awesome event, awesome venue. And so I want to give a big shout out to them. That's touching customers with our latest and greatest, and I think that's important. So with that said, if you're interested in hosting one of those road shows, I can't guarantee you're going to get on this year because we're pretty packed. We're looking at the second half of the year right now, but please contact me. With that said, I'll pass it along to Jerry. Jerry, floor is yours.
Thanks, Lou. So today we're here to talk about EcoStruxure Process Expert. There are 2 versions. We're really going to talk about both of them, but what I'm going to show in the live demo piece of it is the version for Aviva System platform. So Process Expert was introduced in 2012 worldwide, the product as we know it today. However, like Lou mentioned, it really is the latest generation in a series of products that we've had over the last, I'd say 25 years, that take our control platform and close couple it to the supervisory platform. Starting with, before we had one of our own, starting with a product that linked us to Involution, iFix. Originally, we partnered with them. Somebody is unmuted out there. If they could mute, I would appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so let's launch right into it and talk about why we do this. So digitization, if I can make my words work right, that would be helpful. So there's a strong trend towards digitization these days. Part of this has to do with the Industry 4.0, but most of it has to do with the fact that data is present everywhere. So we have so many more intelligent devices, sensors. We have data coming from everywhere to be managed, not just in the control system, but in our daily lives and everywhere around us. So in order to utilize this, this causes engineering costs. It takes time to do it too, which could potentially lead to late delivery on projects if that's not taken into account for. From an operational standpoint, that means that there's also more information, more data for the operators to deal with. So they can get stressed with this information. And really, they get stressed with data. Information is data in context. And really what we're dealing with is too much data without context. And so that's what operators really get stressed about. And so they only react to alarms and really can't focus on process optimization as much. So with EcoStruxure, we really look for three main things. One is smart engineering tools. So to boost efficiency, reduce the engineering cost, and be more efficient, more competitive in the market. Empowering the workforce to give them the tools and the information that they need to actually help them to optimize the system to make business and process decisions in real time that help them out. And then asset standardization. So we do this through object orientation and common protocols and open standards that allow all of the systems to work together very easily. And so that's really what EcoStruxure is all about. We've all seen the EcoStruxure three-layer cake here, with the edge control layer being the primary one where the work is done. And that's where EcoStruxure Process Expert sits, is firmly in the edge control layer. Okay. So we'll see that it does interface directly down to devices in the connected products layer and to systems up in the apps, analytics, and services layer as well. So we really do have a full EcoStruxure implementation when we use Process Expert. So what is it really? So it's a process automation system. It brings together the best from the PLC world and from the DCS world. And also, because we're Schneider Electric, gives us energy management tools to boot. So from the PLC world, we're used to open architectures, flexible and scalable systems, very easy to use for the maintenance people, for the programmers, and for the operators. On the DCS side, we see powerful diagnostics and close coupling and tight integration of the field devices with the control system and with the supervision system, all operating around a single database. And so EcoStruxure Process Expert is a DCS. It's based on standard tools that we have to offer. So with Process Expert, it's a complete solution. We have field-proven components like our sensors, our electrical devices, our control devices. We have standard edge control devices. So our Modicon platform, M340, M580, even back to Quantum, is supported in this environment. And then the apps, analytics, and services as well. So not just the Aviva PlantSCADA or Aviva System Platform, but which really live in the edge control layer with the supervision system, but up into all of the apps, analytics, and services that Aviva has to offer for us. So this is the only DCS for hybrid industry users. What does that mean? So hybrid industries are not pure discrete, machine control essentially. They're not pure process like a refinery. So they're the bulk of the applications and industries that sit in between those two extremes. And so really the unique value propositions that we have are reducing the project lead time. And I hear this over and over again, that the amount of engineering time is reduced by 20 to 30% typically on projects, even on first projects and system integrators. We're increasing the reliability through the use of the Modicon system and the redundant supervision systems that we can offer, improving operations. So giving the operators and the maintenance people a lot more tools to be able to focus on what's working right and quickly tell them what's working wrong, what's not working right, and point them to a solution for that. And of course, improve sustainability. When we include energy information with this, then we're increasing sustainability significantly. And we're going to skip that slide. That should have been hidden. Okay, so what are our benefits in operation? Well, close coupling to apps and analytics gives the business more information about the process. We're using situational awareness, and we'll discuss that a little in a couple of minutes here, and context-aware operational environment. This really helps us on the supervision side to know what's going on and be able to focus where focus is needed. So situational awareness, we used to call it grayscale when it first came out. It's called high performance graphics as well. Situational awareness is really kind of bland graphics, but color is used where it's needed to highlight anything, especially that's in an abnormal condition or an alarm condition. And so it makes it very easy for an operator to just glance at a screen and know whether everything is running within ranges and without alarms. If anything comes up that goes out of range or comes into alarm or warning, then a color change alerts the operator immediately of that, and they can go and address that very efficiently. So this is based on ISA 101 standards. And so this standard makes sure that we have values in their proper context. So alarm limits are shown on this bar graph. Operating ranges are shown, and then any alarm comes up around that bar graph. And we see that the alarms are color-coded red in this case, but we have different colors for different security. We have security embedded. So there's a standard log that records operator actions. In fact, there's a log that records engineering actions during development. So we can go back and look and see who did what when, what actions were taken. You can invoke a confirmation of an operation or even request dual signature. We talked about the event awareness, and this is based on out-of-the-box templates. So we're very object-oriented with object templates for all kinds of equipment and scenarios. And so all of these are already programmed and already set up. Now, the context that you present for each object instance, and we'll take a look at this, gives us the look and feel of that template as well. And so the template is automatically customized for the attributes of each piece of equipment. Runtime services allows us to get in and basically pull all of the information that's available for a particular asset. For example, if you have a pump, you may have drawings for that pump, you may have manuals, a sequence of operation, maintenance procedures, as well as logic, trending, those types of things that are available for that pump. So we can pack all of that into what we call runtime navigation services, which is invoked by just calling up an icon. In fact, I can show you what this looks like. Let me switch over to my VM. And this is a screen that's running in Aviva System Platform, connected to a simulator PLC running a demo project here. Here, if I click on this agitator, up in the upper right-hand corner, we have the pop-up for that agitator. Now, this particular screen style doesn't have the pop-up just come up over the screen. It comes up in a particular place on the right side of the screen. And we see that we have different, so for example, interlocks are shown here, alarm conditions are shown here, maintenance information, the amount of hours it's run, the amount of operations, different modes we can implement here, and then any alarms, and the alarm enabling and managing the alarms is done here. But up in this little diamond in the circle here, I can go to the operation client, which is our runtime navigation services. And here we have, for this particular asset, we have manuals, we have the logic itself can be popped up here. We can through this, we could link to any operation screens that this asset appears on. Right now, it's only on the one. And this is selected. I've actually already got it operating in the background, so we'll pull that up. If I go to the logic, it opens up Control Expert and takes me to the logic directly. Now, Aviva System Platform has a logic viewer add-in, but that requires that you export the logic and import it into System Platform. And this actually looks at the engineering server at the Control Expert logic directly and pulls it up. Now, it's got the pink or salmon background because this is read-only. So we don't want an operator making changes here. It looks like you might be able to make changes. There are some icons up in the toolbar for that, but when they try and implement those changes, it tells them that they're in monitor mode only, and they're not allowed to do that. So let's go back to our presentation here. Alarm management. We have segregation of alarms based on area that you're in, particular equipment, or even specific devices. And the same alarm severity color change and that type of thing that denotes what the priority and what the severity of the alarm is also shows up in the alarm screens here. A sequence of events is automatically invoked. So for any asset out there, you're going to find a sequence of events recording that tells you what happened when with that asset. So that really helps you to identify root causes when you can go back through that history. We can simulate any asset. For example, if you have a sensor that's not installed yet, you can simulate its operation in logic. We can override any asset to tell the system what its state would be if it were working, should it happen to fail, and put things into maintenance mode without affecting production. So our tracking system will record any action that takes place during the development cycle or the operation cycle. We have version tracking of each of the function blocks and each of the object templates. So if you make a change to an object template, that change is recorded, and you don't lose the previous version of that. In fact, you can have different versions of object templates in the application. In a system where we have multi-users, from a programming standpoint, multi-engineers, we can check in and check out those programmers. And so anytime that you have an engineer working on a particular piece of equipment or a particular section of logic, that's checked out, and all the other users can see that happened. And so if they try and go into that same asset or that same section of logic, they're locked out, and they can go back and look and see who is currently in it. The operational audit trail is like the development or an engineering audit trail. It records every operation automatically. You don't have to set this up. In fact, I'm not sure how you would actually turn it off if you didn't want it. It's automatically taken care of. So tremendous amount of data available. And so you can capture that data, analyze it, feed it up to the apps, analytics, and services that are available. Things like Historian, Batch that can be added to it. We can, from a mobility standpoint, we can run these screens on smartphones, on tablets, and so it's very easy to mobilize and help to enable the workforce. All right, so there are lots of benefits in engineering here. So that version control and the traceability we talked about, the concurrent engineering, the ability for multiple people, 2, 8, 10, 20 engineers to be working on the system concurrently on different parts of it. We're very focused on standardization using object templates here, and we'll see how that works in a minute. And we have bulk engineering capabilities. We can export pretty much any part of this system to Excel, duplicate it, make change to attributes, bring it back in, and really create the system from your engineering documents and not have to create them one by one in the engineering tool itself. One of the things that we're very strong is our libraries. So we have the general purpose library. That's our standard library. That, by the way, we've already talked about in these sessions. That's available for standalone Control Expert, System Platform, and Aviva Plant SCADA, formerly known as SciTech, as well as being used as the key library, the main library in Process Expert. We have other advanced libraries and segment libraries available too. We have a number of TVDAs, tested, validated, documented architecture documents. And yeah, I realize that sounds redundant. But how can I do this thing, everything from, how do I connect or integrate a system platform into an EcoStruxure architecture to how do I use Process Expert to run a small hydro facility, that type of thing. So a very broad range of topics here. It's a very object-oriented system. So an object template to us includes everything having to do with an asset. So not just the logic, but the graphic symbols, the pop-ups, the faceplates, alarm configuration, trend configuration, documentation can be linked to it. Any asset web pages, say you've got a VFD, you can link the web page in through the runtime navigation services. All of that is a core part of that object instance and is configurable in one place. It's open, so that means that the general purpose library that we have can be modified. Really, what you can do is take a motor application, for instance, take the motor object, copy it to your own instance of that template, make modifications to it, and store it to your own library. So we have customers who have actually created entire libraries for their use using this model. Some of those model templates were using our general purpose library and they modified them. Others were created from scratch. So the tool to do that is inherent in the engineering client in Process Expert. It comes with the system. But what model use of these objects does is it really enforces standardization, so that once you get an object or an asset working the way you want it to, along with everything around it, all of its inputs and outputs, all of its configuration, now you can replicate that many times and reuse it without having to reprogram it. Tremendous time savings, and standardization means that when someone comes in and looks at it later, it's going to work and look and feel exactly the same way as it always has. The libraries that we offer, so not just the general purpose library, but there's a water library, a liquid food library, there's a M library, mining metals and minerals for things like conveying applications, and then mining and cement library that can be coupled with that for specific equipment in those industries. So these are standardized large things like grinders, and in water we've got aeration basins and chemical injection and those types of things that are very commonly used in those industries, already pre-programmed with their own logic and their own graphic elements. We have also some energy management libraries as well. So there's the energy management library that allows us to do accumulation of your different types of energy sources, calculations for CO2 emissions, that type of thing. And then there's a energy control library for management of things like load shedding that can be added into the system. Bulk engineering, like I mentioned, we can export pretty much anything in this system, run it through Excel, create multiple instances, set up even the plant environment, and then import it back in, and it'll auto-create all of the object instances for you. This is one of the first questions that come up when I talk to customers about this system and how we actually go in and design a system. So this is a scalable architecture. So we had our first US sale in 2014. It was an M340 with about 150 IO on it, it was controlling a hydroelectric generator. And this we've used this system on very large systems with tens of thousands of I/O, multiple M580s and M340s in the system. So it's scalable because we can use any of the M340 and M580 controllers in there. We don't have to have special hardware to use Process Expert. It's all standard hardware. And so it scales very easily from very small to very large systems. So this gives us, transparent information. So we're using open protocols here. We're using Modbus TCP, Ethernet IP, HART, Profibus, Modbus Serial. All of these protocols that we've always worked with are present in Process Expert and can be used with any of these. The high availability. So we certainly support our hot standby systems as well. Our smart devices, we have libraries of devices. So pretty much all the Schneider intelligent devices in the power and control world are present as object templates in the system. So that sets up our communications and the data profiles for these automatically. Makes the task of dealing with field devices much, much simpler. And we support our safety controller as well. This particular slide is a little bit out of date. The safety controller is included in Process Expert now as a programmable device. So there are two versions of this. There's EcoStruxure Process Expert, which is all-inclusive. It includes everything that you saw on the previous slide. So the supervision system all the way down to the templates for the field devices and for all of the controllers there. Now this uses a Viva Plant SCADA, and that's embedded in the engineering client. So you do all of your control work with Control Expert and all of your supervision work with Viva Plant SCADA from within one environment. And it feeds one database where all of the information is stored. Not just the logic and the supervision system in the screens, but also all of the data that links the two is automatically created as you go through. There are three parts to this that we're going to go over in a minute. There's the topology, and this is where you determine what hardware and what services are needed on your PCs, what the networks look like. The plant model, so this is where you create your assets themselves. You instantiate your object templates for all of the elements in it. And then the project explorer, so the project editor. This is where we actually create the control projects, and in the case of full Process Expert, the supervision projects as well. This is where we would come in and refine our logic. So a lot of logic is automatically created, but we need to refine it to get our motors sequenced together and tell it what interlocks and failure conditions are present. On the supervision side, this is where we would build our screens. We would take the object instances which have been created, instantiate those with their graphic elements on a screen, and then fill in the rest of the screens. The second version of this is EcoStruxure Process Expert for Viva System Platform. This is a little bit different. So the control aspect of this is present. So everything that we do as far as logic and creation of all of the data and the object instances, the plant model that's done through the asset management is all created. And then we use a tool called Asset Link. Asset Link will query our control project, determine what object instances there are, and then replicate those in the database in Viva System Platform. So a system platform in this case is a separate system. It's purchased separately, it's installed separately, but it is very closely coupled through Asset Link, which comes with Process Expert here. There's also a tool called Modicon Communication Server that sets up the OPC UA communications between the supervision system and the controllers and really helps us with that. So it's really a more advanced version of OFS, OPC's factory server. But that's embedded in the system platform system, just like Asset Link is. And so in this case, we've got a system that the reason we have this is a lot more customers are familiar with the Viva System platform than they are with the Viva Plant SCADA. And so this has really become a popular solution for us. And so we have a very similar aspect here, the topology, the plant model, the control projects, those are all the same. The supervision aspect, though, the supervision project is done in system platform proper. So let's look at these three pieces. The application manager. So this is where we would instantiate all of our object templates. And let's go back to our VM here, and we'll come into the actual engineering client for Process Expert. And in this case, we have the application editor up. So that's this funky little icon with the folders on here. And so in the application browser, we've actually organized this per SA88 standards by, site, area, work cell, equipment, and then list the devices at each equipment level. And so we do this through a series of folders. These folders can have different icons that tell you what level in the system you're at. But we have our libraries over on the left. So for example, I've already pulled out our on-off devices control. I can take say a valve here and just drag it and drop it over into the position that I want it in my plant model. When I open this up, and you see it's checked out right now, it's locked, so nobody else can get in it if I'm in a multi-user environment or multi-client environment. This is where we would set up what I/O do we have? Do we have failure conditions? Do we have interlock conditions? And if I have interlock conditions, I can come in here and put messages in that show up on the supervision faceplate. So that's where these messages come up that tell us what these interlocks are. And do I have maintenance on this? My recording, the times started and the runtime of this system. And then I can come in and I can define what documents I want linked. So these are stored on the engineering server and pulls from that. Or I can have a list of URLs as well. So these could link to a folder on a network server holding drawings for the system, or link to a product page or a document on a vendor's website, for example, for this asset. So pretty much anything is possible through this. But we're setting up through these hyperlinks, we are setting up our runtime navigation services with this. Okay. This plant model here is what gets transmitted over to either Plant SCADA or to a Viva System platform. And for use in navigation, for use in alarm management, and all of those purposes that the plant model is used for. So none of that has to be created from scratch. It's created once in the control engineering client and then sent over to the supervision system to be replicated. Our topology. So this should be looking somewhat familiar to you, this topology view. So this graphical topology is what you see in Control Expert Topology Manager. You see it in EcoStruxure Architecture Expert. And this is the type of topology definition that we're going to see moving forward in Schneider Electric. So here I can take an asset like this M580. I can drop it in place from a menu of devices here. Just drop it on the screen. I can right-click on it and go in and configure that, and then it opens up Process Expert, or Control Expert, and then I can configure my I/O, configure my network modules, all their IP addresses, everything having to do with the physical architecture of that controller is done through this. So you don't go out to Control Expert separately. It's invoked from within the engineering client here. We set up our PCs and what services are there. We set up our networks and what subnets they have. And so that we can come in and connect each of the network ports on these devices directly to the appropriate type of network that we define here. Okay. And that's what we're showing here. So all of this network configuration, the controller configurations, the PCs and their configurations and what services are used, whether they are going to run a Control Expert simulator, whether they have OPC-UA services on them, whether they're going to run supervision clients. All of that is defined here and then replicated over to the system platform piece. The final piece is the project management. And so this is where we take our topology and our application information and marry them together into control projects. And that would be this screen here. So in this case, we have just one type of control project. We have a control project here. In Full Process Expert, we would have a tab down here for control and supervision, and we would manage our supervision through this as well. But we're looking at the system platform version, and so that would be managed separately in the system platform tools. And so I have a control project here for an M580. I have a control project for an M340. We have containers. Containers to us are, in the control aspect, are sections of logic. And here we have a section of logic that's opened up. And I can take a look at that. I can come in here and refine that section. I can add whatever logic I need to. You see these blocks, though, that are in purple. Based on the attributes that I gave this object instance, this is the same one we looked at, that agitator motor, it generates this logic automatically. And so if I have a VFD on a variable speed motor, I can link those two so that, and that logic would show up here together. The VFD control and the motor control would all be present in the same section of logic and automatically linked together. But we defined that we had some discrete inputs, discrete outputs. So we've got a run and stop discrete inputs. We have a failure condition input. Could be just the overload condition that's in here. And we have other failure conditions that we've defined. So there's a high level switch, for example, on that vessel that comes in as a failure condition as well. We have interlocks here. And so we have another low level switch would be this device, and that's interlocked so that this motor can't start unless we're above the low level condition. And so you've got all of the tools available to you here that Process Expert, the entire logic catalog and library, so that you can build your logic here. And then from this aspect, from the control project itself, I could come in and refine the entire project, create new sections of logic in any language. Now, the sections created automatically by the system are in function block, but you can use any of the languages, including 984 ladder, in the M340 and M580 applications, add them to that and build your own logic in there. Now, this would not be object-oriented logic. This is what we call static logic, but it's completely valid. And the ability to do this means that we can take an existing application, we can come in and add, in brownfield application, add Process Expert to it and import these existing control applications in and manage them from within Process Expert. So once you've done that, now you can start to add object-oriented logic to them and add other controllers from scratch that are entirely object-oriented logic, but include existing controls into this new environment here. All right, and then once we do all of this work in the control environment in the system platform version, all of the information for the supervision, that's created automatically. So once we've defined all of the assets, this agitator motor, for example, that's placed into the plant model. It's created as equipment in Plant SCADA, and it's created as an object instance, a template instance, and system platform. And the plant model is created here that mimics the plant model that we created in the application editor. And so this informs screen navigation. It informs alarm filtering. And so it has some pretty strong impact on the supervision system, the work that we do up front in the control system. And so all of the logic generates also data, and that data is also automatically created over in the supervision piece as well. And so the system is very consistent, right? So you're creating your objects in one place, you're replicating those throughout the system, creating your variables in one place, replicating them throughout the system. And so it really reduces the chance of error during your development. All right, so just to recap here, in Process Expert, regardless of which version you have, the full version or the system platform version, we're using our standard Modicon controllers. And so you can choose the controller, whether it's a level 1 M340 or a level 6 M580 or anything in between that's appropriate to your application. Supports very scalable, supports single controller, many controllers, small number of I/O, very large number of I/O, and it can scale very simply between those if your application grows. From a communication standpoint, we're moving more and more towards OPC, and so we are certainly supporting that in connection to the Modicon controllers. But of course, you know, our supervision systems support it for third-party use as well. And so all of the drivers that Plant SCADA offers and that system platform offers, those are available to us. And so we can talk to any third-party equipment from a supervision standpoint. And of course, if they can communicate in a standard open protocol that we use at the controller level, then we can communicate to those as well, including even at the M580 now supports OPC UA client applications in the newest firmware. The runtime navigation services and the operation, you know, really enhance what an operator normally sees there, just as a control pop-up in there. But it gives them so much more information about each individual piece of equipment or asset that's in the system. And so that now you can really embed all of the knowledge base that you have for a piece of equipment or a part of the process within the supervision system automatically. So an operator just a few clicks away goes and grabs whatever manual or whatever drawings or document or goes to whatever web page is appropriate to help them out. The engineering aspect of this is really strong. So it is a multi-user environment. So we'll sometimes sell a Process Expert system with just the single engineering client that comes with the server, but very often we're adding, you know, 10 or 20 engineering clients to the system as well. So the larger the system, the more engineers are typically working on this concurrently. They're all working on the same server. They're all working on the same database. And we keep them from colliding with each other through the automatic checkout and check-in feature here. The libraries that we have really extend our capabilities. And so they give us really pre-canned and pre-programmed algorithms and graphic elements for very common applications. Even things like just discrete inputs or analog inputs, you know, there's alarming built into those. There's multiple graphic elements that are built into those. And then, of course, the general purpose library, which gives us all of our basic objects. All of these can be modified, so it's an open system. You can, you know, copy any element in the general purpose library, create your own elements from scratch, your own templates, and create a whole system based on the customer's specific requirements for that. So it's very flexible. So this is something that our competitors just don't allow you to do. If you look at Plant PAC, for example, they really want this run in specific controllers that have the library built into the operating system, into the firmware, because they're hugely resource intensive when they run Plant PAC. Here we're using standard DFBs, and you configure each object instance let me get back to our screen here, and we'll look at that logic again. So all of these elements were created because we set up an attribute for them. So if we wanted to have our stop-start strictly through the operator interface, and there's no field stop-start condition, then we don't have these DI signal conditioning blocks. They're not present. They're not built. If we don't have maintenance defined for this, if we don't want to record runtimes and numbers of times started, then these blocks here are not created. And so we tailor the logic to the specific application that you've defined for each instance. This is instance by instance. And so that saves on memory, it saves on data footprint, and really helps to optimize the system. All right. Were there any questions? I think that's pretty much it here.
So I think most of the questions have been answered in the Q&A. I don't see much. I don't see anything new in the chat. So if anyone have any questions, please you can unmute your mic and ask the questions live, or put it in the Q&A and we'll answer it. While we do that, just an FYI, I put in the chat. I put the survey feedback link. If you can take a look at that, or if you like to. Let me go ahead. If you like to use a QR code, I'll go ahead and share that. No, share. There it is. I'll go ahead and share that QR code. And please, feedback is really important. We just want to know how did we do today, and if you have any other additional additional topics that maybe we're blindsided by that you guys really would like to know about. So
one thing I didn't really talk about, and that's how do we implement it? How do we sell it? How do we buy it? So Process Expert is a standard Schneider part number set. And so that's, if it's the full product, the supervision system is purchased with Process Expert part numbers as well. The license itself for that will come from Aviva, but you're purchasing the entire system from Schneider. For the system platform version, the Process Expert doesn't include system platform. That's purchased through the Aviva channel. And some of that may be changing as well over time here, but there's more to come on that later. But for the time being, we get our Aviva channel involved for that piece of it. When we sell a system like this, of course, there are lots of presentations to customers and getting them to look at this type of DCS or advanced control system. You could call it that as well. And so you would get one of the SAE team involved in making those presentations. I could come in and do a more of a deep dive, an actual technical presentation. This presentation, it was very overview, very high level, but do a how does it work? What does the system really look like internally presentation? That would be a second step with the customer after the overview. And then if they're really interested and want to actually start working on a project, then we have a workshop. It's a 3 to 4 day workshop where we come in and actually do the training on the system. And we start with a basic workshop example, and then we'll take their P&ID and recreate an element of their actual project and get them started down the road of working with Process Expert, whether it's the full product or the system platform version. So we've been very successful in these projects.
So Jerry, there is a question in here: tech support for Process Expert with hybrid DCS. There is one support for both PLC and SCADA. Is there?
Yeah.
I guess the question.
Yes, there is. So our tech support at level 3 is actually where you enter in with Process Expert. So it has its own tech support email and its own phone number, and it's answered by Process Expert tech support experts. They are responsible for both the control side and the supervision side. regardless of which version it is, whether it's plant SCADA or system platform. And then we contract with Aviva for additional support over and above what they can offer. So if they need level 3 Aviva support, then they have access to that. But that's all done through the standard Schneider tech support mechanism.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And again, please do the survey. We only get usually somewhere about 15-20% of you guys actually giving feedback. It would be great if we can get 60-70%. That really gives us a good snapshot of how we're doing. Again, I appreciate you guys being on the line today and joining us. And again, if you reach out, if you have any questions around the product that you've seen today and you need to know more, reach out to me, reach out to Jerry, and we'd love to help. Thanks, everybody. That concludes our webinar today. We'll see you next time.